Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf, which is Pesachim Chav Daled. Perhaps, let's back up a bit to Chav Gimel Amud Beis. 4 lines from the bottom, Minayin. We're actually looking for a makor for the halacha, that Chametz on Pesach is Asur Bahana, the Sher HaNiskel is Asur Bahana. Now of course according to Chizkiah, it's because the pasuk on both accounts uses the term Lo Ye'achel. Lo Ye'achel automatically includes Hana as well as Achila. But according to the other Shittos, where's the makor? Where's the source for this concept that Chametz on Pesach and Sher HaNiskel are not only Asur Ba'achila, but also to derive any benefit from them? It says the Gemara 4 lines from the bottom, Minayin. So this was a Chacham presenting in front of Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani in the name of his, perhaps Rabbi Shmuel ben Levi. So he said like this: what is the makar, Minayin? D'chsiv kol chatas asher yuva midama. The pasuk here is telling us that a chatas whose dam is not meant to be brought into the Heichal or the Kodesh HaKadoshim, but for some reason it was brought into those areas. This chatas is pasul, it can't be eaten, it must be burnt. And the pasuk says, Ba'esh tisarif. She'ein Talmud loyma ba'esh tisarif. There's no real need for the pasuk to say Ba'esh tisarif. That's meant to be burnt. Why? Because we already know that from elsewhere. Uma Talmud loyma ba'esh tisarif. Why then does the pasuk specify burn this chatas? If it's not needed for its own sake, why not? Because we know from elsewhere, this was on the 8th day of the Miluim, Vahibayim Hashmini, so the chatas was burnt. As Moshe asked Aaron HaKohen, why? What was the basis for the sreifa there? Perhaps was the dam brought into the oil moed unnecessarily? And that seems to imply that bringing the dam into the oil moed would justify sreifa, so we already learned from there that this type of psul leads to sreifa. So why then does the pasuk here specify that this type of chatas needs to have sreifa? So if it's not needed for its own sake, we can apply it elsewhere. This is a formula, a drasha, that we use all over. When the pasuk is not needed for its own sake, we apply it to elsewhere. So if this pasuk is not needed because we already know it from the other place, Tneu inyan l'chol yisurin shebetorah apply to the other yisurin where the Torah speaks about the isur, achila, and Rashi says the only two things we really have is the Chametz of Pesach and the Sher HaNiskel that we're trying to find a source for. So we're going to apply this Ba'esh Tisarif to those cases. Now, if it's not needed for the Isser Achila, because the pasuk clearly tells us in those cases that the Chametz and the Sher HaNiskel, the ox that gored, is Asur Ba'achila, so it's not needed for that. Tneu inyan le'Isser Hana. So let's apply it for the Isser Hana. So from this pasuk Ba'esh Tisarif by Chatas, we derive the concept of Isser Hana for those cases, Chametz on Pesach and Sher HaNiskel. Says the Gemara, we have a problem. If we're going to compare it, so let us say as well that the other things, Chametz and Sher HaNiskel, need to be burnt. It just says this chatas needs to have sreifa. It says B'esh Tisarif. Av kol yisurin shebetorah b'sreifa. If that's the case, then the other yisurin as well need to be burnt. It says the Gemara, no. Amakra b'kodesh B'esh Tisarif. And this teaches us b'kodesh b'sreifa. Only this chatas, which is a psul in the kachim and the carbon, that needs sreifa. Bein kol yisurin shebetorah b'sreifa, but the other yisurin like the chametz don't need to have sreifa. Okay, so this seems to be a plausible approach. This is a source for the Isser Hana by chametz. Says the Gemara, so this was Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani challenging the Chacham. How can you suggest that this would be the makar that we're looking for? This pasuk that you quoted, is it coming to teach us this halacha? The halacha that Chametz Pesach is Asur B'Hana? We already need this pasuk for a different halacha. We need a pasuk like Rabbi Shimon, the son of Shimon. What does that teach us? that the chatas, which needs to be burnt, the chatas that was pasul, you have to burn it in the azara. Limed al chatas shesoif and oisa ba'kodesh. You can't just take it outside and burn it anyway. You have to burn it in the azara. So this is the domain of this carbon. It's meant to be eaten there. It's meant to be placed on the mizbeach. And even if it gets pasul, you burn it in that same area. That's where you tend to this carbon. Ve'enli elazu avad. Now this only teaches us that the chatas needs to be burnt at that location. What about other karbanis that were pasul? Psuli kachim kachim, ve'imuri kachim kalim. So let's say the kodesh kadashim, the an oila, which is one of the kachim kachim, or even the imuri kachim kalim. So those are the fats from the kachim kalim, like a shlamim, which the fats are meant to be put on his beach. So all these, as Rashi explains, they're all meant to be within the azora area. Whether the kachim kalim, which are meant to be take a part of it and put it on the mizbeach, or the kachim kadashim, which are meant to be consumed in the azora. So since that's their location, that's where they belong, Minayin, how do we know there as well that you're meant to burn in that location? If they get pasal Talmud loymar ba kodesh v'chol ba kodesh ve'esh tesarif. The pasuk begins v'chol chatas. This is the pasuk by the chatas whose dam was brought into the heichal. The pasuk begins with the word v'chol. V'chol chatas asher yuva midama elo yomoid l'chaper hakodesh lo yisri ochel ba'esh tesarif. So we learn from there that any kachim, any carbon, like the kachim or the imura kachim kalim, which got pasul, not only the chatas which got pasul needs to be burned in the azara, but v'chol, because that's the first word in the pasuk. That's how the Marshal explains the drasha. The first word in the pasuk is v'chol. So we take that and we stretch it. We say v'chol, any of these karbanis, not only a chatas, any of those karbanis that became pasul are meant to be burnt ba'kodesh be'esh in the place of kedusha in the azara. Okay, so we already need this pasuk for that halacha. How can we go ahead and use the same pasuk for the Isra Hana, for chametz? It's unavailable for that purpose. Amar lei, so the chacham who presented this makar before Rav Shmuel Nachmani in the name of Rav Shmuel Levi, and that was challenged by Rav Shmuel Nachmani, he says this pasuk is unavailable. It's going to be used for the general halacha. It teaches that all these karbanis that became pasul need to be burnt specifically in the Makom Kadosh. So the Chacham responded like this: Amar lei, Rabbi Yonasan Rabbach. You meant to know that your Rebbe, Rabbi Yonasan, the Rebbe of Rabbi Shmuel Nachmani, he also did not use this as a source for chametz. Mahai kroka amarla. He actually used a different pasuk to provide a source for this anov of chametz. The pasuk here is discussing the miluim. So the karbanos that were brought during the Shivas Yimei HaMiluim, Shmonis Yimei HaMiluim, when the Beis HaMikdash the Mishkan was inaugurated, and the pasuk says like this: V'im yivaser mibsar HaMiluim. If some of the basar of the miluim karbanos is going to be left over, umin alechem adabayker, so we have some noisor. What happens to that? The pasuk says, Lo ye'achel ki koydeshu. So the pasuk says like this: you burn it, v'sarafta as hanoisa beish, lo yochel ki koydeshu. The question is, once we say that you have to burn it, v'sarafta as hanoisa beish, why is it necessary to say it can't be eaten? Once it's burnt, you can't eat it in any case. Shein tamad loyme lo yochel. There's no need for the pasuk to say lo yochel. Uma tamad loyme lo yochel. Why then does the pasuk say that the leftover of the karbanis of the miluim are not meant to be eaten? If it's not eaten for its own sake, pasuk already says you're meant to burn the leftovers in the fire. So why does the pasuk have to add, don't eat it? Let's apply it to other isurim in the Torah. This is similar to what we said earlier. If it's not needed for achila, we're speaking about those isurim, the chametz and the shar niskel. I'm going to learn from here that those things are asr as well. But if it's not needed for achila, because the pasuk already tells us the chametz is asr b'achila, let's apply this pasuk that speaks about the isser to consume the noiser of the miluim karbanos, let's apply it as the source for Isser Hana for Chametz B'Pesach and Shar Niskel. Okay, so this will be a makar for the halach. Says the Gemara, okay, but if you're going to learn it from here, then you have to conform to all the halachis that are found in this context. If that's the case, then just as over here, you have to burn the noiser. Pasuk says clearly you have to burn it. If so, then the other yisurim as well, the chametz and the shar niskel, need to be burnt specifically. Really? We don't find that to be so. Amakra says the Gemara. The pasuk says like this: V'sarafta sanoiser. The pasuk in this context by the leftover karbanos of miluim says V'sarafta es hanoiser beish. Now, why does the pasuk have to say es hanoiser? The pasuk began by describing leftovers, indicating we're speaking about leftovers. So why does the pasuk have to repeat again? V'sarafta es hanoiser beish. We learn from here that only noiser needs to be burnt. Noiser b'streifa. Ve'en kol yisurin shebater b'streifa. However, the other yisurim like the chametz don't need to be burnt. Okay, so this provides an alternate route, another makar, that chametz on Pesach, shar niskel, asar b'hana. Asar b'hana, but don't necessarily need to be burnt. Says the Gemara, but this is also a problematic approach. V'aylo ya'achal lahachid asa. This pasuk by noiser of miluim, the words lo ya'achal, is it indeed coming to teach us this halacha? Hami boili, look at Rabbi Elazar. We need it for Rabbi Elazar's then. Damar Rabbi Elazar. Lo ya'achal ki koydeshu. Rabbi Elazar is referring to this pasuk by the noiser of miluim, where the pasuk concludes, burn it, lo ya'achal ki koydeshu. Why does the pasuk have to say ki koydeshu? Give us a reason. We already know that it's kodesh. The pasuk here is adding something. Kol sheba kodesh pasal. That any time you have a carbon which became pasal, ba'akasav litain loisase alachilase. The pasuk here is coming to tell you that there's an isser lav to eat it. For instance, if you have a carbon which is pigel, a carbon which left the azor, yoitze, all these psulim, you're not meant to eat it. And this very pasuk is the source for that isser. Let's take a look at Rashi. So, a couple of lines up, about 3 lines up, Rashi begins, Mi boile, look at Rabbi Elazar. We need the pasuk of lo ya'achel for Rabbi Elazar. Litin loisase, to add a loisase. Di'im v'sarafta, because if the pasuk would only say, yeah, you meant to burn it, lo yaviyadina be isser lav l'malchus, I wouldn't know that there was a lav to eat it, and there would be malchus generated. And we learn from here that not only the leftover of the miluim is asr, but anything. Kol shebekodesh pasal. Any type of kachim psulim. How do we know? V'dichsiv ki kodeshu yisera. Since the pasuk adds, you're not meant to eat it, ki kodeshu. That seems to be teaching you something extra. L'rabois kol shar psuli kachim belav. If you're going pigel, v'yoytzim, nishpach damai, all these different variations of kachim psulim involve a lav for consuming them. So the pasuk is unavailable for the chametz. We need it for the lav, for pigel and yaitze. Continues the Gemara. Amar Abaye, you know what? Let's go back to the chatas, whose dam was born into the heichal. And the Gemara initially wanted to learn from there, right? And we said, well, the pasuk b'ish tisurv seems to be extra words, and that will teach us that the Isser Hana applies to chametz. But then the Gemara said, well, we need a pasuk b'ish tisurv to teach us that a universal halacha, that all the karbanis which became possible need to have their streifa in the azor. So the words b'ish tisurv are unavailable for our purpose. Let's go back to the first pasuk. Let's switch things around. Instead of learning from b'ish tisurv, which doesn't really seem to be extra, let's learn from the words loisei acha. The pasuk by Chata says, any chatas whose dam will be brought into oil made unnecessarily, loisei achal, the chatas should not be eaten, b'ish tisurv, should be burnt. Now, once you know it's burned, of course it won't be eaten. The lichtay beish sarf, v'lei boy lo siachal. Let the Torah simply say, burn it, and then we don't need to speak about not eating it, because firstly, it's not practical, it's burnt. And not only that, we also know that it's also to eat it. Also to eat something which is puzzle. Why? Let's see. Why does the Torah have to say don't eat it? If it's not needed for its own sake. Because number one, it's being burnt, it's not being eaten. Number two, you may not eat it. There's an issa, the nafkale with Rabbi Lezer. We just learned that from Rabbi Lezer, that any kachim psulim have an issa. There's a lav with respect to eating it. And that lav is universal. All the kachim psulim. Right? That was Rabbi Lezer. He says, Lo yachal ki kodesh. It teaches us that all kachim psulim may not be eaten. So why then does the Torah have to specify this chatas has to be burnt and not eaten? So since it's unnecessary for its own sake, it seems to be extra wording. Tzaneu inyan l'chol yisurin shebetorah, apply it to the other yisurin, chametz and pesach, and the sharon iskel. V'mein inyan l'achila, if it's not needed for the achila, because we already know those things are asa b'achila. Tzaneu inyan l'isarno, apply it for isarno. Okay, so going to Abayi, chatas will actually form the basis of the isarno by chametz and sharon iskel. Says the Gemara, one more thing. Imakan b'sreifa. If that's the case, then just as over here, sreifa needs to be done. Av kol yisurin shebetorah b'sreifa. Are you going to propose that the other yisurin as well need to be burnt? Says the Gemara, no. Amakra, the pasuk says, by miluim ha'noiser. The pasuk says, v'sarafta es ha'noiser beish. The extra word ha'noiser, which seems to be superfluous because the pasuk already said it's noiser. So that extra word comes to teach us, ha-noiser b'sreifa, only noiser needs to be burnt, ve'ekol yisurin shebetorah b'sreifa, but other yisurin like chametz don't need to be burnt. So according to Abayi, chatas will be the source, is arno on chametz. How do you know? Ve'ema li'chudilei lav l'gufei huda'asa. You know why the pasuk says, lo yisei by the chatas? You seem to think that it was extra, unnecessary wording can be applied to chametz. Not so fast. Perhaps the Torah is trying to give you a lav, specifically here by chatas. You know why? We're trying to generate a einish of malchus, which we wouldn't have if we would just rely and base our isser on Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer says that lo ya'achel ki kodesh teaches us kol shebekodesh pasal. All the karbanos psalm may not be eaten. It's a love. But that wouldn't necessarily generate malchus. If the person is over on love, he wouldn't get malchus. Dima Rabbi Lezer ein loikin alashav v'klalis. That love is a klal. It's an all-encompassing love. Because it includes all the different types of karbanos psulim. And we know that a general all-encompassing love doesn't generate malchus. So yeah, it's us, but if a person's over, it doesn't get malchus. Perhaps that's why the Torah specified by chatas. It shouldn't be eaten. Because the Torah wants to create a separate, specific law for chatas in order to generate malchus. So that was the Papa's kasha. Perhaps the Torah is trying to specify a very specific lav for chatas. Even the Rabbi Lezer, because based on Rabbi Lezer's lav, it wouldn't work. Therefore, says Rav Papa, you can't use this pasuk of leisei achel stated by chatas to form a source, a marker for chametz and pesach, because it's unavailable. It's needed for chatas to generate the love. Elam Rav Papa miyacha. I have another source. So the basa of kachim, which will touch something that's tamei, lo yachel beish yisarif. Now, once we know it's beish yisarif, we already know that it's lo yachel, whether practically or halachically. We already know from Rabbi Lezer that it is an isser. Now, maybe we want to have a specific malchus here, but that we also know from elsewhere. Says the Gemara, She'en Talmud Loyma Lo Ya'achel. Why is the pasuk saying Lo Ya'achel? Ma Talmud Loyma Lo Ya'achel. The pasuk doesn't have to say Lo Ya'achel. So why does it say Ma Talmud Loyma Lo Ya'achel? What's the point of Lo Ya'achel? Imein Inyan Legufay. If it's not needed for its own sake, why isn't it needed for its own sake? Because once you know that the basar is tamei, then we already know on our own that we may not eat it. There's an isser, there's a lav, there's malchus as well. You know why? Because we could learn it through a kavachemer from Maser Sheni, which is really more lenient than the basar of Kodesh. And since we know that Maser Sheni is not meant to be eaten betuma, then certainly basar Kodesh. Uma Maser Akal Omer Torah. Since we find that Maser, despite its lenient, low-level form of Kedusha, even so, despite its low level, the Torah says, Omer Torah, Loi bi'arti mimena betome. Person says, I didn't consume it betuma because it's also to do so. So since we find that Masa has that halacha, Basar Kodesh Chomer Lekoshkin, certainly Basar Kodesh, which is Mochamer, of course, contains an Isser of eating a betuma. So once we know that the Basar Kodesh contains an Isser and a lav and a malchus, then why does the pasuk have to say burn it and don't eat it? There seems to be extra wording. Perhaps you can't employ a kavachema to create a azhara, a warning, a lav. This is a formula Rashi brings in Maseches Makos. So perhaps this kavachema can't generate a lav for Basar Kodesh. So then we have another option. Hekeshu. We actually learn it from a hekesh. It's not a kavachema, it's a hekesh, where we connect the basar of a carbon to Maser Sheni. This is the maser. And the pasuk there speaks about animals and karbanos. So that pasuk connects maser de gancha, with karbanos. And just as we know that there's a lav when it comes to eating Maser Sheni betuma, likewise there's a lav by the karbanos, by the basar. So when the pasuk speaks about basar, which is tamei, why does it have to say lo ye'achel? Ma tamad lo ye'achel? Why does it have to say lo ye'achel? Imein inyan l'gufay, if it's not needed for its own sake. Tneu inyan l'chol yisurin shebatorah. Let's apply to the other yisurin chametz shar niskal. Imein inyan l'achila, if it's not needed for the isur achila, which we already know. Tneu inyan l'hana. Let's apply to the hana. Says the Gemara, ma kam b'streifa. But if that's the case, and just as over here by the Basar Kodesh, it needs to be burnt. Pasuk says, Lo ya'achel ba'esh yisarif. So if that's the case, then perhaps af kol yisurin shebatorah b'streifa, the chametz as well need to be burnt. Amakra, this is what we learned earlier. We have the word hanoisar in the pasuk of the karbanos of the miluim, the extra word hanoisar, which teaches us hanoisar b'streifa. Yeah, only the noisar needs to be burned. Ve'en kol yisurin shebatorah b'streifa. But other isur in the Torah, like the chametz, doesn't need to be burnt. So according to Rav Papa, this pasuk of v'habasar asher yiga b'chol tamei lo ya'achel b'eish yisaref, where the words lo ya'achel are extra, unnecessary words, because we already know the isur achila through the connection to Ma'aser Sheni. Those words lo ya'achel will provide the makar for the isur hana for chametz b'pesach. Amalei Ravina Lavashi. How do you know? Ve'ema laver olav b'shnei lavin. Okay, you said we already know the lav because it's connected to Meiser, but maybe the pasuk is simply coming to add a new lav, to give you a new yisur, a new lav, a new malchus. So when the pasuk says lo ya'achel on this basa, which is tamei, it's not extra wording. The pasuk wants to add another yisur, as we find elsewhere that sometimes just on one little creature a person can have many lav and many yisurim. Lav mi amar Abaye, didn't Abaye say, Ochel putisa. If a person eats a water insect, sheretz hamayim, this type of putisa insect, loike arba, he gets 4 times malchus. Rashi explains because there are 2 psukim with respect to the general concept of the shvatzim of the small creatures, 2 lavim, and then we have an additional 2 isurim pertaining specifically to the sea creatures, for a total of 4. So achal patisa like a arba. Numala, if you eat an ant, which is a land creature, like a chumash, he gets 5 times malchus. He gets the 2 standard, basic lavim applied to all the creatures, and the Rashi brings another 3 psukim, which were specific to land creatures. sira, if he ingests this sheret ta'oif, this flying insect, like a sheish, he gets 6 times malchus. Because this flying insect is also a land creature, so he has the 5 malchus of the land insect, land creature, and he gets another malchus because it's a oif, it's a flying insect. And there's another pasuk for that. So we see that for one isser, for one small insect, a person can get 4, 5, 6 malchus. So perhaps the pasuk is somebody trying to add another malchus, another lav, to the basar tummy. How do you know it's extra and available? Amar lei, so this was the kasha that Ravina asked Rav Ashi. So Rav Ashi responded, yeah, if we have a better option, if we have a way to be derish and apply the pasuk for something else, we're meant to do that. Rather than just concluding that there are more lavim here. That's not the preferred approach. If we have an alternate approach, we can take the pasuk and apply it elsewhere to generate Isser Hana by the Chametz, for instance. Then we're meant to do that rather than just say, well, the pasuk is trying to repeat itself and add more lavim and more malchus. So in conclusion, we were looking for a makar, which will teach us Isra Hana for Chametz on Pesach, for Sher HaNiskal. Then we're presented several options. We began with the pasuk describing the Korban Chatas, whose dam was unnecessarily brought into the Heichal or the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which makes the Korban pasul. The pasuk says it shouldn't be eaten by Eish Tesaref. The words by Eish Tesaref seem to be unnecessary words because we already know that this Chata is meant to be burnt. So perhaps these words are available to teach us Isra Hana by Chametz. Or it says no, because we need the Eish Tesaref to teach us the general concept that when a carbon becomes pasul, it's meant to be burnt in the Azar. Amaya suggested that the words like Se'achel are available, and where it says no, because that's needed to teach us Malchus for one who eats this carbon. The word told us about the pasuk describing the leftover karbanos of the Miluim. They're meant to be burnt. Lo Ya'achel. Lo Ya'achel seem to be extra words. Perhaps it can be used for the Chametz on Pesach. Where it says no, it's meant to teach us a general concept that there's an issa of a loisase upon eating any kachim sulam. And finally, the Gemara presented the pasuk describing the basar of a carbon which became tamei. They meant to burn it; it shouldn't be eaten. And we already know that there's an isser, there's a lav, there's malchus by basar tamei because of the connection, the hekesh to Maaser Sheni. So the words lo ya'achal are unnecessary and available to form the source of the isser hana. But the other isser achila like chametz on Pesach and Sher HaNiskal. Continues the Gemara. So once we're discussing the pasuk describing the basar of kachim which became tamei, let's analyze the pasuk further. The pasuk says, "Veha basar asher yiga b'chal tamei lo ye'achel ba'eish yisaref," and the pasuk concludes, "Veha basar kol toir yoichal basar." So the pasuk begins with veha basar and then mentions veha basar again somewhere in the middle. Says the Gemara, why does the pasuk have to begin with veha basar? V'habasar asher yiga b'chal tamei lo ye'achel, the reisha dikra lamali. That initial mentioning of habasar, the beginning, the reisha dikra. Why? Why is it needed? The entire context of the psukim is karbanis. So why does the pasuk have to be specific and say v'basar touch the tamei? Especially, as Rashi points out, we just concluded that actually there's no pasuk needed to even tell you this Isser by Basar Kachim, because we already know it from the connection to Ma'aser. So why does the pasuk begin with V'habasar? Answers the Gemara, L'rabbis eitzim levaina. It's coming to add, to include something, a chiddush. Even firewood, even levaina, intended for the mizbeach, can become tummy, even though they're not oichel, they're not foodstuffs, they're not roila achila. So how are they going to become tummy? Here we have the concept mentioned earlier, Rashi and Tosfos, chibas hakodesh. The fact that it's dear, it's held in high esteem, it's meant to be consumed by the Mizbeach. That makes us view it, renders it oichel, and therefore can be mekabel tumah. So v'habasar is coming to add this chiddush. Now what about the word v'habasar in the last part of the pasuk? V'habasar, kol tor yochal basar, the seifei, lamali. Why does it have to say v'habasar, kol tor yochal basar? It says yochal basar. Why do you have to say v'habasar? And then again, basar. L'rabbi say murin. The second v'habasar is coming to say that even a murin, the fats which from the carbon which are intended for the mizbech, not meant to be eaten by the kohen, as Tosfos points out. The chiddush here is even those things. There's an isser. One cannot consume them when they're tummy. So v'habasar of the last part, the seifa of the pasuk, is coming to add even a murin. Says the Gemara, imur mahasan afka. Regarding imur, we have another pasuk for that. The Sanya. A person who is tummy will eat the basar of the shlamim ashel Hashem, and he'll get kares. Asher Hashem. Why add those words? L'rabbis esa imurin. It's coming to add a murin. That even if a person eats those things which are not really intended to be eaten by the kohen, if he eats them while he's tummy, it's included in this isser, in this pasuk of kares. So we see that a murin have already been included through that pasuk. Hasam tumas haguf b'kares. The context there is where a person eats the carbon when he's tummy, tumas haguf, which results in kares, which is a more stringent, a more severe isser. So perhaps there, we include the murin in this isser. Hacha tumas basar b'lav. However, over here, the pasuk that we described, v'habasar kol torah chabasar, is speaking where the thing itself is tummy, not the kohen, but the basar or the imur are tummy, and it only generates a lav. So perhaps it's more lenient, and you wouldn't include a murin automatically. That's why the pasuk has to add v'habasar to include a murin. So conclusion, a murin are included, are held in the same regard as basar, with respect to tumas hakuf or tumas basar. Continues the Gemara. Omar Rabavo Omar V'Yechna. Kol yisurin shebeTorah. Any isur achila in the Torah. Ein loiken alein. A person will only receive malchus upon eating them. Ela derech achilasim. Only if he eats them in the proper manner, in the conventional manner of eating. Limutimai. What are we coming to exclude? Omar Avsimi Rashi. Limutei. We're coming to exclude the following scenario, where he's going to eat something in a manner which it's not generally eaten. Shem ochal chelav chai shapata. If he chooses to eat raw, uncooked fat is not meant to be eaten in that manner. Raw, that's considered shaloi kederach achila shapata. Therefore, he's pater. It's asar, but he's pater. He doesn't get malchus, because isra achila is strictly if one eats it in a proper manner through a proper masa achila. But if you eat something in a way where it's not conventional, it's not the proper way of eating this item, he's pat. Ikadami, there's another version of Abba Rabavo Amar Yochanan. Kol yisurin shebeTorah ein loiken alein ela derech hanasim. All the yisurin shebeTorah, even the ones that are asar b'hana. So although you can't derive benefit from it, but the isser is only if you derive benefit in the conventional manner. Derech hanasim. Lemutamai. What are we coming to exclude? Amar Barashi lemutei sheiminiach chelev shel shar haniskel al gabe malkasei shupat. If he chooses to take the chelev of the shar haniskel, which is asar b'hana, and he puts it on his mak, on his wound, to derive benefit in that manner, he's pater, because chelev is not meant to be used in this context. The kolshkin, of course, oichel chelev chai shupat. Of course, if he eats chelev chai, this raw, this uncooked chelev, is pater, because it's shloi kederach achila. So according to the first girsa, because of the first approach, this exemption of shloi kederach applies only to achila. So if one eats something shloi kederach, he's pater. But when it comes to hana, any form of hana generates chiyuv, because at the end of the day, he had enough from it, even a shloi kederach. Whereas according to the second approach, this concept applies not only to achila, but also to hana, such as in the case of putting the chelev on his wound. Since it's not the conventional method of having hana, it's shloi kederach, and he's pater. The Rambam actually learns that even if he takes something which is edible and he mixes something davar mar, something bitter, which renders it unfit for consumption, or he takes something which is asur but it's spoiled, that's also considered to be Shloi Kederech. Itmar Nami Omar Rav Chia Bar Avi Omar Vasa Rav Yechanan. We learned likewise name Rav Yechanan. Hine Achelav Shashah Niskel Al Gabi Makase Potter. If he takes the chel of the Shah Niskel and puts it on his wound, he's Potter. Why? Because it's not the normal way of using it. Because a malchus only arrives when a person has anah in the conventional manner. Let's take a look at Rashi. It's around 10 lines down from where from our location in the Gemara. Rashi begins with Ela derech achilasim. So malchus only applies if he eats the iser derech achilasim. Elim ken achlan derech achilasim. That's according to the first version, that Shaloi Kederech provides an exemption in matters of achila, but not in matters of anah. Ikad Amri, according to the second approach, Hada Ravo Ahana Itmar V'Ahanach Asir B'Anah applies to something which is even Asir B'Anah. Chelev, says Rashi, Ein Derech Hana Asir El Ba'V'Ora. The proper way of enjoying your chelev is by burning it, or to smear your moisturize the hide. Not meant to be used for medicinal purposes. The koshkin oichel chelachai, certainly not to be eaten raw. Continues the Gemara. Omar Rab Zera afanana mitanina. I'll bring a raya from a Mishnah to this concept that if a person derives hana shalei kederach his pot. The Mishnah says ein soifkin esar boim mishum arla. So you know that arla is not only asar b'achila but also b'hana. However, a person will not be soifik arboim, will not get malchus if he ingests the juice, the extracts of the arla juice, of the arla fruit, ella only in two specific cases. Ella al hayotze min hazesim u min hanav milvad. Unless he ingests something which is extracted from olives or grapes. So grape juice or oil, yeah, that's considered proper arla. That's the proper way of, the conventional way of consuming the olive or the grape. You're meant to make wine from it. You're meant to use the olives for oil. So using the oil in this manner is considered derech hana. Ve'ilu mitusin. However, extracts from of the berries, the te'enim, figs, v'rimonim, pomegranates, loy. So juice is extracted from these fruits would not result in malchus. My time, and why? Lav mishum isn't the reason because the loikal achalahu derech hanasam, because he's not ingesting them in the conventional manner. Because olives and grapes are meant to be squeezed into juice, but other fruits not. So since he's not consuming it derech hanasa, he doesn't get malchus. So you have a raya that shalei kederech is pot. This was Reb Zera's raya. Amalei Abai. So Abai said, not so fast. You can't bring a raya from there that shaloi kederech is pot. Why? Bishleima yashmi'inan pri gufa. Because if the Mishnah would say, look, if you take the actual fruit itself, not the extract, not the juice, but the fruit itself, and eat it in a non-conventional manner, if you wouldn't eat it in a conventional manner, for instance, he takes a nut, which is meant to be eaten uncooked, and he takes it and cooks it and then eats it in that manner. And if the Mishnah would say, well, he's potter because it's shloi kederech, shaper, yeah, then it would be good. You would have a raya from there that shloi kederech exempts. Look, he took the actual fruit, but since he ate a shloi kederech, he's potter. That proves the point that shloi kederech is potter. Ela hacha. However, in our case, where he's not consuming the actual fruit, he's not eating the actual berry, he's squeezing it, he's extracting juice from it. The reason why he's potter is because the juice has no prominence. It's not regarded as though he had the actual fruit. The juice extract of the tusim, te'enim, v'rimonim are regarded merely like zeya, like sweat, just moisture. It doesn't contain the essence of the fruit. So that's why he's potter. In contrast with the zeisim and the anavim, the olives, the grapes, they're meant to be squeezed into juice. That juice contains the essence of the fruit. And that's why it's tantamount to eating the fruit itself, and it's chayiv mishum arla. The reason why it's potter by the other fruits is because it's just zeya v'alma. It's not regarded like the essence, like the actual fruit. And that's why it's potter. It's unrelated to the concept of shloi kederech. Let's see Rashi. Rashi is around 14 lines from the bottom of the Amid. Rashi says, Ein soifkin es arboim. Gabi Mashkin Koy Mesechas Trumos is a Mishnah in Trumos discussing juice, fruit juice. V'ka Amar, Mishnah says, the Ein Kol Mei Peres Kruin Mashkin. El Eilu Bilvad. Only juice emanating from grapes and olives are classified as true mashkin, as opposed to other fruit extracts. Ein seifkin sarboim al shumei peres shel arla. If a person eats any mei peres, any fruit juices of arla, he doesn't get malchus. Why? Mishum debekulu sheloi kederach hanasanu el eilu. Because when he drinks the other fruit juices, that's called sheloi kederach, because they're not intended for that. It's not meant for that. It's called sheloi kederach. In contrast with the grape juice and the oil, which is considered derech, the proper way of consuming the olive or the grape. So this was Reb Zeir's right, that sheloi kederach is potter. Abai responded, no. If the Mishnah would speak about the actual fruit, if he eats a sheloi kederach, Kigoi, for instance, shabisha, like goizim, or yafarsikin, so he cooked up the nuts, or the yafarsikin, va'achlan, and ate them, things that aren't meant to be cooked, and he ate them in that manner, and the Mishnah would say he's potter, then that would provide a raya. Shaper shaminimuna, they ain't loikin, el kederach achalasin. Certainly, you can derive from there that there's no malchus when it's sheloi kederach. Because look, he took the actual fruit and ingested it, but since it was cooked and it was sheloi kederach, he's potter. So you would have a raya from there. Aval hashta, time of the potter, mishum d'lai priyachal. However, now, when we discuss extracts, you know why he's potter? Because he didn't have the fruit. That's the reason why he's potter. Because it's merely zeya ba'alma. So perhaps if he would take the fruit itself and eat it like kederach, similar to the case of the chaylev, him go and eat it, even if it's raw, perhaps he would be chayiv. Because even shlei kederach is chayiv, as long as he has the actual item itself and he's eating it. The reason why he's potter in this case is because we're not speaking about the actual object, we're speaking about the extract, the juice, which, other than the zeisim v'anovim, are not considered proper juice. They're considered zeir ba'alma. That's the reason why it's potter. Okay, time for a brief chazorah of today's daf. We were looking for a makar for the Isser Hana, for various Isurei Achila, for the Chametz on Pesach, Shar Niskal. We were presented several options, and we concluded that the makar would come from the pasuk describing the basar of kachar, which became tamei, and you're not meant to eat it, lo yachal. The pasuk lo yachal seems to be superfluous and can be applied as a basis for the Isser Hana, the Chametz on Pesach, and Shar Niskal. We analyzed that pasuk of Habasar, which contained the reference to V'habasar twice. The Gemara says the first one is meant to teach us that even eitzim v'lavoina, which are non-food entities, can be b'kabel tumah due to the chibas ha'kodesh, which renders them food. And the second reference to the word V'habasar in the pasuk is meant to teach us that even the emurin of the carbon, the fats, which are not intended to be eaten by the kohen, even in that case, if it's tamei, there will be isser upon eating it. And the Gemara concluded that actually we have another pasuk which tells us that the emurin also included in the isser kares, involved if a person who's tamei will eat these emurin. And we concluded with the halacha that when a person eats isur achila shlei kederach, he's potter. According to the second version, that applies even to isur hana. If he derives benefit shlei kederach in an unordinary manner, he is potter. Reb Zeir attempted to bring a raya, which Abaye negated.